Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to this foggy, little chilly Sunday morning. I'm thinking about this new year is only 10 days old still so new. Over this weekend, we are hosting here the College Age YBA event. Had what we call the College Age YBA prom, but it's been a weekend of just getting together, Dharma School YBAs from all around, all the way. We have one from attendant from Virginia, all the way from True. Are they here today? Did they make it up? Well, who's here from the college age group? Why don't you stand? And I see Matt. Oh, very good. All right. And the rest are sleeping still, and I'm piping this into the kaikan, so good morning, guys. This morning, Allison Wong hit the kansho, too, and this is amazing. Allison is a natural, really is. I was telling him, what was it, Marty? Marty went by this morning and said, "Who hit that?" I mean, wow, that's really a compliment when people are asking who hit the kansho. But it's a beautiful, chilly January morning, and as we begin this fresh new year, I was thinking again, why is it that we come to Dharma school? Why is it we come to services in our tradition? And it's not just to fulfill the attendance requirement for our sports program, although some may be here just for that. I know that people come more than just for that. On New Year's Eve and on New Year's morning, we have services here, and these are considered services where you get extra credit for attendance for the Dharma school students. But among the 400 plus people that were here on New Year's Eve, there are only about a dozen or so Dharma school students. So I know coming to service is not just for attendance requirement. I've shared this before, but whenever I think about why is it that we come to service, why is it we come to listen to the Dharma, there is a saying and an image that comes to mind for me very quickly. A very dear friend of mine and now retired minister, Reverend Akio Miyaji, once spoke here, and Reverend Miyaji asked our Sacramento Betsuin Dharma School, "Why do you come to service? Why do we come here to listen to the Dharma?" And then he answered his question saying in Japanese, "Kokoro no sentaku." Kokoro no sentaku. Kokoro means heart and mind. Sentaku means to clean. To clean. So listening to the Dharma, coming to service, is our chance to clean our hearts and our minds. Every single day, we wake up, we wash up, we brush our teeth, we put on clean clothes and fresh socks, and we step out into the world. But when do we have time to clean our hearts and our minds? When do we have time to clean our hearts and minds? My Metta Padma students here know that cleaning our hearts and our minds is also the symbolism of oshoko, of burning incense. Burning incense is a symbol of purification. We know it doesn't really clean anything, doesn't purify anything, but it's a symbol of purifying, of cleaning our hearts and our minds. So each time we burn incense, it is a reminder for us to clean our hearts of any anger, any resentment, any complaints. Because as soon as we have any complaints or anger in our hearts, then there's no room for even a sliver of gratitude. Oshoko also reminds us to clean our minds of our busy schedules. We try not to think about where we were before, where we have to be next. Instead, we simply try to be right here, right now. We try to find our way completely and to the present, mindfully aware of the moment that is right now. The Dharma is our mirror of deep reflection. When we look into the mirror of the Dharma, our Dharma eyes open and we see again what is of value in living each day. Too easily and too often in the busyness of our well-scheduled days, we take for granted all that we have. We take for granted the gift of each day and take for granted too easily the people who are closest to us, our family, our close friends. But when we look into the mirror of the Dharma, we're reminded that we must not take for granted even one day. We must appreciate the love of family, the companionship of friends. For as I mentioned, too easy in the busyness of our well-scheduled days, we're so preoccupied with things to do, busy crossing off things on our long lists of things to try to do each day, that we become rushed and impatient and always in a hurry to get more things done. So it is really important to try to take the time to reflect on who we are, what we are doing, and why. Self-reflection, self-examination is the primary exercise in Buddhism. Knowing ourselves is a primary exercise in our tradition. It is said that the historical Buddha, the historical Shakyamuni Buddha, would go off by himself every day for 4 hours to meditate and to reflect. Every day he would make the effort to reflect and review and reconnect to his humanity. As I have often said, we who are living in this day and age in the United States, we are truly the most well-scheduled, the most well-entertained, and the most well-informed people that have ever lived. And it might seem impossible to find 4 hours in a day to meditate and reflect, but it is still an excellent recommendation that comes from the Buddha himself. We should try to take time every day, even if it's only a few minutes, to remember what is really important in living each day. Have you ever found yourself wishing that there was a pause button to your life? A pause button that we could just push and stop everything, just for a moment. With all the activity that's been happening these past few weeks for us, I certainly have felt that I wish there was a pause button on my life. But I think each time we've quietly wished we had a pause button on our lives to push, there is something within us, deep within us, telling us that we need to take a moment to reflect and remember and regain a perspective on what we are doing and why. Each time we come to our Betsuin and we sit in this hondo, this is our pause button. As I've often said, when we step into this hondo, we try to leave our schedules and agendas outside. We try to leave our monku and shimpai, our worries and complaints, try to leave them outside. And being only right here, right now, we become mindfully aware of what we know is truly important in living each day. This is Buddhism. This is the Dharma. It's very simple, and yet so easily overlooked and momentarily forgotten. And I think that is why we come to service. That's why we come to listen to the Dharma. Kokoro no sentaku, to reflect and remember and to clean our hearts and our minds. There's a wonderful Zen master, Roshi Shunrui Suzuki. He founded the San Francisco Zen Center back in the 1960s. And Suzuki Roshi would often say to his students, And this is a quote from Roshi. A life without reflection is like winding our watches without setting the time. It will work just fine, but it won't tell us anything. Winding our watches is, a life without reflection is like winding our watches without setting the time. It'll work just fine, but it won't tell us anything. Many of the younger members here probably would not remember that there was actually a time when we had to wind our watches to make them work. But Roshi would say to his disciples, life without reflection is like winding our watch without setting the time. Do you get that? You get it? We nourish our bodies with food. We try to exercise and hydrate. We try to get a good night's sleep. We take vitamins and supplements. We go to the dentists and the doctors, get regular checkups. We do everything we can to wind our life watches, to keep them ticking. But if we don't set the time, then the watch will keep ticking and run just fine. But when we look at it, it won't tell us what time it really is. It won't tell us anything. Suzuki Roshi was saying that reflection is like setting the time correctly. It is getting back in touch with the moment that is right now. Then, when we look at that watch, it is ticking with purpose. In other words, looking into the mirror of the Dharma is cleaning our minds and hearts of all the things that are not important. It is setting the time on the clocks of our lives so that we will live our lives meaningfully. To live our lives meaningfully is simply to try our best to live each moment well. With Dharma eyes open, we'll try our best to live each moment well. And as I've often said, if we just try our best to live each moment well, then we cannot help but in time look back on a life well lived. So I hope as we begin this new year 2015, we will continue to make the time, to take the time, to live with deep reflection. Let us continue to look into the mirror of the Dharma and live not taking for granted all that we have. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you throughout the new year 2015. I'd like to thank you for coming this morning and joining us. In closing, please join me in Gassho. Listening to the Dharma is a deep and meaningful reflection. And as Suzuki Roshi has said, a life without reflection is like winding our watches without setting the time. It will work just fine, but it won't tell us anything. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.